The chess grandmaster is the reason they start checking the clock. At 2 in the morning, with old wood polish in the air and the soft click of a single chess piece touching felt, they are the ones getting uneasy when the room goes quiet. Not you, not the grandmaster. He just sits there, calm as stone, while everybody else feels that strange pressure in their chest, like something is already moving and they missed it. That is what they never understand. The chess grandmaster is not nervous because he has already learned how to live past panic. He does not need noise to feel strong. He does not need the room to agree with him. And that title? It is not a costume, not a phase, not a lucky season. It is the highest chess title, awarded by FIDE, and once a player earns it, it stays for life. That is why people whisper. Not because he is loud, because he is exact. They look at him and see stillness. But underneath that stillness is a mind that has already walked 10 moves ahead, already traced an answer, already felt the trap before it opened. Most people react to the move in front of them. The Grandmaster has already weighed the next 3, the next 5, the one that only becomes obvious when it is too late for everyone else. And here is the part that unsettles them most. He did not get there by guessing. He got there by seeing patterns where other people saw randomness. Thousands of games, studied, replayed, remembered. Tiny details, weird positions, old mistakes, quiet lessons that never looked important until they all started speaking at once. That is how the board gets inside him. That is how the whole board becomes something he can hold without flinching. Some players can even do it blindfolded. Imagine that for a second. No board in front of them, no pieces under their eyes, just the entire position alive in the mind, clear and steady. That is discipline. And maybe that is why they fear him. Because if a mind can hold the board that clearly, what else can it see before they even make their move? If this is your kind of story, subscribe and like now, because the next part goes deeper. And that is why the room starts acting strange before he even touches a piece. The Grandmaster does not need to announce himself. He walks in, sets his bag down, and the air changes a little. A chair scrapes. Somebody clears their throat too loud. Even people who do not know much about chess can feel it. That quiet pressure that says, this is not a normal game, not a normal mind. They are the ones who tense up. He is the one who settles deeper into stillness. That is where the real difference begins. Most people want the next move to be obvious. They want certainty handed to them in a clean little box. But the chess grandmaster lives with the whole board within him, and that means he can sit in uncertainty without losing himself. He does not rush to command the center because he already knows what happens when you give the center away too early. He waits. He watches. He lets the position speak. And while everybody else is busy reacting, he is noticing the small things. The fingers that tap twice before a decision. The pause before a trade. The glance that lands on one square a little too long. That is pattern recognition, yes, but it looks almost unfair from the outside because it is trained. Hours. Years. Thousands of positions stored in the mind until the board stops feeling like chaos and starts feeling like language. That is why they misread him. They think calm means passive. They think silence means doubt. They think a quiet face means a quiet mind. But the Grandmaster can already see what the impatient player is building, and he can see where it breaks. He can feel the shape of the trap before it opens. And the scariest part is, he does not even need to look impressed. He just sits there, almost gentle, while everyone else starts second-guessing themselves. And once that doubt creeps in, it spreads fast. Because now they are not just playing the board, they are playing the man across from them. And he has been 10 moves ahead long enough to know exactly when their confidence will crack. But the strange thing is, that is not what he is waiting for tonight. Because across from him, for the first time, someone is smiling like he understands the position too well. And that smile was the first sign that this would not be one of those easy, flattering performances people talk about afterward. The one who truly sees the board does not fear a confident face. He studies it. He lets it sit there under the warm lamp, across the squares, next to the faint smell of coffee gone cold. Most players get provoked by that kind of smile. They hurry. They want to answer attitude with action. But this man does something holier than that. He waits long enough to find out whether the confidence is real, borrowed, or bait. That is what separates him from the restless crowd. They think chess begins with pieces. He knows it begins with intention. A hand hovers over a knight for half a second too long. A shoulder loosens after a pawn push that looks casual. A player leans back as if to say, "There, now solve that." And to ordinary eyes, those are tiny things, hardly worth noticing. To a trained mind, they are doors left slightly open. So he does not rush to prove anything. He lets his opponent build his little picture, lets him believe the center is his, that the pressure is landing, that the path ahead is simple. So people misread mastery badly. They think strength always announces itself. They think wisdom must interrupt. No. Sometimes the deepest control is refusing the move your pride wants and choosing the one that keeps your structure clean. You know this feeling, don't you? When they expect you to react fast so they can measure you. When they want your face, your words, your speed to give them information. The disciplined player denies them that luxury. He keeps the board honest. He does not show them where his attention has settled. He does not tell them which line he has already rejected. He just touches one piece, gently, and sets it down with a sound so small it almost disappears. Tick. Now the clock is louder than the room. Now the smile across from him tightens at the edge. Because that single move did not attack anything obvious. It did something worse. It changed the position in a way only a serious player would feel. The squares that looked comfortable a moment ago now breathe differently. The easy plan is gone. The bright idea has lost its shine. And his opponent knows, all at once, that the one he is facing did not answer the move. He answered the mind behind it. Then something even stranger happens. The Grandmaster closes his eyes for a brief second, opens them again, and reaches for a pawn as if he has already seen where this game will be when half the board is gone. And when he reached for that pawn, the room felt the shift before it understood it. Beloved mind, marked 1. This is what they never learn about a player like this. The move that changes everything is rarely the loud one. It is the quiet touch of a fingertip on wood. The soft slide across the square. The piece set down like a sealed decision. People who only know surface chess look for checks, threats, fireworks. But the one who has trained himself to command the center knows that real authority often arrives dressed like simplicity. So he pushes the pawn. Just enough. You can almost hear the other man's thoughts stumble. The smile is still there, but it is thinner now. His eyes move from one square to the next, then back again, as if the board has betrayed him. Because that small move was not about the pawn. It was about air, space, timing. It shut one door and opened another 3 moves later. This is what the crowd can never imitate. They see the hand move now. He sees the shape change afterward. That is why the strong unsettle the impatient. Most people want proof in the moment. They want to know right now that the choice was right now that the sacrifice will pay off, right now that the path is safe. But a true master is willing to make a move whose power is still hidden. He trusts what he has stored. He trusts the lines he has walked in study, the old patterns pressed into memory, the positions that once looked harmless until they broke open 5 turns later. That kind of trust is not ego, it is earned sight. And the board is speaking louder now. The clock clicks. A sleeve brushes the edge of the table. Someone in the back shifts their weight, then goes still again. Across from him, the other player reaches toward a bishop, stops, then pulls the hand back. There it is, the first crack in the rhythm. The Grandmaster does not smile when he sees it. He does not celebrate. He simply settles deeper, because now he knows the position has entered that holy place where panic begins to smell sweet to those who depend on tricks. But he is not facing a fool. The man across from him finally makes his move, and it is clever, clean, sharp, almost disrespectfully calm. For the first time all evening, the Grandmaster's fingers stay above the board a little longer than before, because he has recognized something old, something dangerous. He has seen this exact pattern once before, and the last time it appeared, the player who ignored it never recovered the game. And the moment he recognized that pattern, his breathing changed. Not outwardly, not enough for the room to notice, but enough for the board to become something older than wood and pieces. Chosen mind. This is where they lose you. They think recognition is a flash. For a player like this, recognition is layered. A bishop line remembered from years ago. A pawn shape that once looked harmless. A king that seemed safe until one quiet square gave way and the whole position started leaning in the wrong direction. He has studied too many games for accidents to impress him. What others call surprise, he often calls repetition in a new coat. So he does not panic at the danger. He respects it. That is the discipline they can't imitate. Reactive people either dismiss a warning or overreact to it. They rush to defend everything at once. They start touching pieces with nervous fingers, trying to patch every weakness, trying to look confident while the clock keeps clicking like a second heartbeat in the room. But he knows better. A serious player does not save a position by flinching. He saves it by finding the one truth inside the noise. That one square, that one exchange, that one quiet correction that keeps the structure from bending any further. And here is the holy part of mastery. He has paid for this calm in private. He has sat through enough old games, enough stubborn positions, enough long nights with only a lamp over the board and stale air in the room that his mind no longer begs for comfort. He can hold tension without trying to escape it. He can sit inside uncertainty and still see clearly. Which is why the chess grandmaster becomes so unnerving to people who live off pressure. They expect the dangerous moment to make him smaller. Instead, the dangerous moment sharpens him. His hand finally moves. His hand never moves quickly. He leans in just enough to study the line one last time, fingertips resting on the edge of a knight as if listening through the piece. Then he makes the move that looks, to almost everyone watching, slightly too modest for the moment. No flourish, no dramatic correction, just a clean repositioning, a refusal to be baited into solving the wrong problem. Across from him, the other player's jaw tightens, because he sees it now. The old pattern did appear again, but not in the way he intended. The Grandmaster did not walk into it. He turned it. He redirected it. And if the man across from him is as strong as that first smile suggested, then he also knows something else now. The next move will reveal which one of them has truly been seeing deeper. And that is the kind of moment only a serious player can feel in the bones of the position. Beloved strategist, set apart mind, notice what happens here. The board has not exploded. No piece has fallen in some dramatic way. The lamp is still warm over the table, the clock still making that dry little click, click, click. And yet everything has changed. Because when a master recognizes that the other side has seen deeper than expected, he does not get offended. He gets precise. That is where they lose their balance around a man like this. Most people need to feel superior in order to stay calm. The great player does not. He can respect strength without surrendering his own. So when the move comes back sharp, when the line on the board starts carrying hidden weight, he leans closer, studies the squares, and lets the truth settle. This opponent is not bluffing. This one has done the work too. Which means the game has entered a cleaner, colder place. The place where only structure, memory, and nerve can guide you. Now watch him. He is not chasing every threat. He is not trying to patch every weakness with anxious hands. He is looking for the living squares, the ones that still breathe. That is what a chess grandmaster does when the position turns serious. He searches for the point that holds the rest together. He knows that if you command the center at the right moment, you do not have to answer every noise at the edge. And that lesson reaches far beyond 64 squares, doesn't it? Because they want you scattered. They want your attention broken into pieces. But the disciplined mind gathers itself first. His fingertips brush a rook, then withdraw. His eyes rest on the knight again. Not yet. A bishop line glints open for half a second, then closes in his mind. He is calculating, yes, but more than that, he is arranging. He is holding the whole board within him so completely that the future positions begin to feel almost physical, like furniture in a dark room he has walked through before. Across from him, the other player notices the silence stretching. That is its own kind of pressure. Because when you face someone who does not panic, your own thoughts get louder. A swallow. A blink. A thumb rubbing the edge of a pawn. The signs are small, but they are there. And now the Grandmaster sees something new. Not a tactic, not a trick, but a weakness in temperament. He makes his move. The opponent answers almost instantly, too instantly, and that instant reply tells him more than a long think ever could. Consecrated one, attentive one, this is where shallow people get impressed by speed. They see a fast move and assume power. They hear the piece land with that clean little tap and think, there it is, confidence. But a player of this level knows quickness can mean many things. It can mean preparation. It can mean vanity. It can mean fear wearing a straight face. So he does not react to the speed itself. He studies what the speed belongs to. His eyes stay on the board. The position now has that tight, polished look certain games get when both minds have stopped performing and started revealing themselves. The air feels drier. The room smells faintly of paper, old fabric, and cooled coffee. Even the watchers at the edges seem to understand that something important has happened because nobody shifts, nobody coughs, nobody wants to break the thread. Across the table, the opponent sits a fraction too still after that quick answer. And that is what the master notices, the move, and the stillness after it. That kind of stillness can mean, I prepared this. It can also mean, I need you to believe I prepared this. There is a difference. The one with discipline does not argue with appearances. He tests them. He lets the board ask the next question. Most people, when they suspect a bluff, try to expose it immediately. They rush forward. They force. They need proof right now. But a man who has spent years with patterns does something far more powerful. He places a move that looks harmless, almost respectful, yet it asks the other side to keep being perfect. Not once, again, then again. That is where memory and understanding part ways. Anyone can remember a line for a few turns. Not everyone can carry its meaning when the shape changes. Not everyone can hold 10 moves ahead without dropping one thread when the board stops following the script they hoped for. So he begins to adjust the texture of the game. One square, one trade, one narrowing lane at a time. No grand gesture, just pressure placed where borrowed confidence tends to crack. And now the opponent does something small, almost invisible. He wets his lips before reaching. He was not doing that earlier. The hand comes forward, pauses over one piece, shifts to another. A tiny hesitation, less than a second. But to a trained mind, less than a second is enough. Because now, the Grandmaster knows the answer to the question he just asked. And the answer is dangerous in a completely different way. This man was prepared, but not for this position. And that hesitation is the real confession. Chosen one, notice how the board changes when a player starts to doubt his own speed. The chess grandmaster does not need to call it out. He sees it in the hand that lingers over a rook, in the breath that shortens, in the tiny pause before a move that should have been easy. That is what separates a trained mind from a noisy one. Others think confidence is something you display. He knows confidence is something you test. So he does not chase the flash. He works the position the way a careful hand works a lock. One turn, then another. Never forcing it. Never pretending the first fit is the right one. People who only see the surface would miss it. But the board is telling a story now. The easy routes are closing. The open lines are narrowing. And the other man, the one who answered too fast, is starting to feel what happens when a game stops rewarding speed and starts rewarding truth. That is where pattern becomes power. A weaker player sees one move and reacts to it. The disciplined one sees the shape behind the move. He knows when a response is a real answer and when it is just decoration. He knows when someone is protecting a weakness, when someone is trying to command the center without earning it, and when the whole board is quietly tilting toward a side nobody admitted was in trouble. That is why they whisper about him, because he is rarely surprised, and still he gives nothing away. No dramatic face, no restless tapping, just that deep, settled attention that makes other people start hearing their own thoughts too clearly. The room feels smaller now, tighter around the table, as if the game has pulled the air inward. The watchers near the back lean in without meaning to. They can feel that something is happening under the pieces, something they do not have the language for. The Grandmaster does. He has seen enough endings to know the beginning of one when it starts to show its teeth. Then he makes a move that looks almost ordinary. Almost. The opponent freezes for a half second too long, and the Grandmaster sees it, the exact moment the other man realizes his first fast answer was not strength at all. It was cover. And just as that truth lands, a new line opens on the board that should not have been there, unless he planned for it from the start. And once he sees the cover, he stops treating the game like a question of speed. Beloved one, this is where the board starts speaking in a different language. The quick answer is no longer impressive. It is useful because it tells him what the other side is afraid of losing. The chess grandmaster watches the pressure points now, not the noise. He watches the square that was protected too early, the piece that moved with just a little too much pride, the line that looks solid only because nobody has touched it yet. That is how he keeps command of the center without chasing every flare at the edges. Most people would grab the obvious gain and call it a win. He does not. He knows how easy it is to get pulled into a neat little trap before it opens. So he lets the position breathe. He adjusts one pawn, then another. Nothing dramatic, just enough to make the opponent keep proving himself. And the more the other man proves, the more visible the weakness becomes. The room does not notice it right away, but the man across from him does. He blinks once, then looks back down too fast. That is the giveaway. A player can hide fear for a while. He can hide pride for a while too. But when both start living in the same hand, the hand begins to betray him. The Grandmaster sees it, and he does not rush to crush it. He simply keeps building the kind of position that asks hard questions. What are you willing to give? Which piece are you really protecting? How long can you pretend this line is still yours? That is 10 moves ahead thinking in plain clothes. No fireworks, no speech, just a structure tightening around the truth. And now the air around the table feels different. A cup has gone cold near the score sheet. The paper smells faintly of ink and dust. The opponent's fingers rest on his bishop, then slide away, then come back. He is searching for the move that saves his pride without exposing the line he spent all that time preparing. That search is the weakness, not the line. Because the moment a player starts hoping the board will forgive him, he has already lost a little piece of it. The Grandmaster sees one more thing, though. Something tucked inside the position, like a hidden thread. The fast answer was not just cover. It was bait for a response he expected at the exact wrong moment. And if he is right, then the next move does not belong to the player across from him at all. It belongs to whoever taught him to trust that line in the first place. And once he senses another mind behind the move, the board becomes even more revealing. Beloved one, this is what they never understand about deep mastery. A great player is not only facing the person across the table. Sometimes he is facing study habits, borrowed courage, old analysis, the echo of another stronger hand that once arranged these same pieces in a different room. The chess grandmaster can feel that echo by structure. Certain moves carry the smell of preparation. They arrive too clean, too early, too certain for the position in front of them. So he stops asking, "What is this man playing?" He starts asking, "What kind of line was this man taught to trust?" That question changes everything, because now he is no longer solving a single move. He is tracing a system. He is looking for the point where memorized confidence ends and actual understanding begins. And that, chosen mind, is where disciplined people become frightening to reactive people. They are not impressed by the performance. They want the foundation. The room feels colder, though nobody has touched the thermostat. The overhead lamp throws a pale square on the board. A score sheet corner curls a little near a water glass. Across from him, the opponent sits with that same careful posture. But the ease is gone from it now. He is trying to remain inside the line he came prepared with. He is trying not to step outside the walls of what he already knows. That is the weakness. Because once a position starts to breathe on its own, memory alone is not enough. You need judgment. You need the nerve to let go of what you rehearsed. You need to see 10 moves ahead without clinging to the first 5. And the master knows exactly how to test whether that power is really there. He does not tear at the position. He thins it. He offers a trade that looks equal on the surface and poisonous underneath. Not poison in some dramatic sense, poison to borrowed certainty. The opponent stares at the exchange. If he accepts, the game simplifies, and all that prepared smoke may vanish. If he refuses, he admits the line was never as solid as he hoped. This is why the strongest players are so disturbing to those who rely on appearance. They do not attack your pride directly. They place you in front of truth and make you choose. His fingers hover over the piece. He knows this is the moment, because if the trade is taken, the game enters a cleaner world, and in that world, the man with the whole board within him will have the edge. But if it is declined, then something far more interesting is about to be confessed. And when the hand finally moves, it does not take the trade. Beloved watcher, set-apart thinker, that refusal says more than acceptance ever could. He has chosen complication over clarity. He has chosen to keep extra pieces on the board, to keep the air thick, to keep the position crowded enough that memory might still pretend to be understanding. The master sees it at once. The man across from him does not want a clean game. He wants a foggy one. That is how they survive, isn't it? Not by deeper truth, but by more clutter, more motion, more options, more little chances to hide hesitation inside activity. But this kind of player has lived too long with real positions to be fooled by that. He knows that when someone declines a simplifying path, they are often protecting not the board, but their own uncertainty. So he does not punish the refusal with anger. He answers it with order. A pawn advances one square. Small move. Cold move. A move with no appetite in it at all. And yet, the whole table feels it. The lane that looked flexible a moment ago narrows. A piece that seemed free now has fewer clean homes. The center starts to answer to him again. Not loudly, not with some theatrical sweep, but with that steady authority that makes anxious people feel crowded. He does not need to win material right now. He needs to reduce excuses. That is the difference between a strong player and a disciplined one. The opponent notices. Of course he does. His fingers stop hovering and begins searching. There is a difference you can hear if you've ever sat close enough. The faint brush of skin against a piece, the tiny pullback, the breath through the nose instead of the mouth. The board has begun asking him to think for himself now, and that is where borrowed lines get lonely. This is why the hours matter. This is why the hidden study matters. When the position stops matching the notes in your head, only what truly became part of you remains. The one across from him lowers his eyes and stares hard at a diagonal that did not matter 2 moves ago. Now it matters. And the master understands something almost tender in its precision. This man is not weak. He is trying very hard not to leave the road he came on. But the road is ending. The squares ahead are unfamiliar. The prepared rhythm is gone. There is only judgment now. Then, with a kind of forced calm, the opponent makes a move that keeps everything complicated. And for the first time tonight, the master almost smiles, because that move confirms exactly where the fracture is, and exactly which piece will reveal it. And the piece that reveals it is not the one most people would be watching. Anointed mind, patient one. This is where shallow eyes get lost. They stare at the queen. They stare at the open file. They stare at whatever looks dramatic under the lamp. But he is watching a smaller thing. A knight with too many duties. A defender asked to hold more truth than it can carry. That is the burden of a crowded position. One piece starts doing the work of 3. And if you know how to listen, the strain becomes visible. He knows how to listen because he has spent years in rooms that offered him nothing but repetition. Board set up, pieces reset, old scores replayed, the dry slide of wood across squares, the faint ache in the neck after another hour bent over positions other people would call boring. This is what they never honor. They praise the move they can see, but they do not respect the knights that built the site behind it. He does. That is why his calm is not mood. It is structure. It was trained there, in all those hidden hours when no applause was coming and no one cared whether he found the right square except him. So when this new complication arrives, he does not feel threatened by it. He feels accompanied by everything he studied. The board is crowded, yes, but not confusing to him. He can feel which piece is overloaded, which pawn cannot safely move, which route only looks active because it has never been challenged. This is the advantage of carrying so many old games inside you. Not the names, not the dates, the shapes, the recurring weaknesses. The same little lies positions tell before they collapse. He does not need spectacle to know where the truth lives. Across from him, the other man is still trying to preserve the appearance of freedom. That effort costs energy. A sleeve brushes the table edge. A finger taps once against a captured piece, then stops. The move just played was meant to keep options alive, but instead it tied that knight tighter to the center of the board. Now it cannot leave without exposing something behind it. And the master sees with almost painful clarity that this was the fracture all along, the one point where preparation could not save him. He lowers his hand toward the board, past the knight, toward the pawn beside it. And that is when the opponent finally looks up. And when the opponent looks up, that is the first honest move he has made in a long while. Beloved one, pay attention to that glance. Not the pieces for a second, the eyes. A player only looks away from the board like that when the board has stopped obeying the story he was telling himself. The man across from him is asking, what did he see? And that question has weight. It means the center of confidence has shifted. The master does not answer with expression. He lets the pawn move finish its work. Such a small thing. Wood against wood, a square taken, a route narrowed. Yet the whole position changes character. That overloaded knight now has even less air around it. The line behind it starts to show through like a seam under thin fabric. This is what they always miss about quiet strength. They think control looks like force. No. Sometimes control looks like making one natural move so exact that every false option around it begins to die on its own. Real mastery feels lonely because you learn to trust the move that nobody claps for. You learn to value the correction over the display, the structure over the performance, the square that keeps everything alive over the flashy idea that flatters your pride. He has lived there for years, so he can sit in this silence without rushing to harvest the position too soon. He does not need immediate proof. He needs alignment. He needs the board to confess in full. Across from him, the other man sees the problem now. If the knight moves, something behind it loosens. If it stays, the pressure grows. If he tries to push forward, he may be pretending activity while his own shape weakens underneath. And worse than all of that, he knows the man facing him understands this too. That is the real discomfort. Not danger alone, but visible danger. Shared danger. The kind both players can smell, like paper warming under a lamp. His hand goes toward a bishop. Stops. Shifts toward the knight. Stops again. There it is, something subtler than a blunder or collapse. One part wants to keep up appearances, the other wants to survive the position. The Grandmaster is so disturbing to reactive people. He does not create that split, he reveals it. Then the opponent chooses. He slides the bishop. At first glance, it looks elegant, resourceful even. But the instant the piece lands, the master's fingers rise from the table, because the move did not solve the tension. It transferred it to the king's side. And the moment that tension reaches the king's side, the whole game stops pretending. Beloved one, this is what a deep player waits for: exposure. The board has finally carried the hidden strain from the crowded middle into the place people care about most. That is how truth travels in chess. A weakness rarely stays where it begins. It migrates. It shows up 3 files away, 5 moves later, wearing a different face. And the one who has lived with thousands of positions knows exactly how to follow that trail. He waits. That matters. A weaker mind sees the king's side loosen and gets excited too early, starts reaching for combinations, trying to force a finish just because the air feels promising. But the Grandmaster has too much memory for that. He knows a half-open line is not yet a confession. A nervous king is not yet a result. So he sits there, under the warm light, fingers resting near the board, and lets the position keep talking. You can almost hear the room listening with him. The clock ticks with that dry, patient sound. A page on the score sheet shifts when someone breathes near it. The opponent's face is steady, but his shoulders are not. They are holding something now. Holding shape. Holding composure. Holding a position that asks too many things of too few pieces. And that is where the master becomes so difficult to face. He does not only see the pieces, he sees which responsibilities are becoming unbearable. The bishop move tried to solve one problem by borrowing strength from another area. That borrowed strength now has a cost. So he begins to arrange, not attack. A rook is placed where it looks almost modest. A piece improves by 1 square. Nothing flashy, nothing for the impatient people to clap at. But the lane toward the king's side gets cleaner. The defenders get less coordinated. The old central strain, the one everyone thought had been managed, starts to echo through the whole board again. This is command, subtle command, the kind that makes the other person feel their own position tightening around them. And the other man feels it. His hand moves to a pawn near his king, then pulls back. He knows that push would create air, and also create a target. He studies a trade, rejects it. He looks at 1 square twice. That is enough. The master sees the map clearly now. Not the final move yet, but the shape of the ending, the route, the pressure points, the exact place where one defender will be asked to choose between loyalty and survival. Then he makes the quietest move of the night, and for the first time, the opponent does not reach for a piece at all. And that look is all he needs to know the endgame is waking up. Beloved mind, this is where the loud part of the game starts dying off. The extra tension is gone now. Fewer pieces, cleaner lines, less room for pretending. That is why serious players respect this stage so much. Because once the board thins out, every decision stands there by itself. No clutter to hide in, no borrowed confusion to lean on. The whole board within you matters more than ever now, because what remains is not noise. It is truth. He does not hurry. That is what separates him from the ones who think fewer pieces means less danger. No, it means less cover. It means each square starts carrying a little more weight, each move a little more consequence. The chess grandmaster knows this feeling, and he trusts it. He has seen enough endings to know that a position can look calm right before it becomes decisive. So he keeps his hands still, eyes moving slowly from one side to the other, letting the board tell him where the real weakness lives. And they hate this part. They hate it because there is no theatrical rescue left. No flashy trick can save a bad structure forever. The king is still there. The pawns are still there, but now the shape around them matters more than appearance. And appearance was always the easier lie. A player who rushed earlier may still have hope, but hope is not the same as control when the lines are narrowing, and the strongest piece left is the one that can quietly command the center without asking permission. That is why the Grandmaster becomes almost impossible to read in these moments. He is searching for the exact square where the board will stop allowing excuses. Maybe it is a pawn move that opens a file. Maybe it is a trade that forces the king to breathe differently. Maybe it is a bishop route nobody noticed because it looked too quiet to matter. But the pattern is there now, and he feels it the way another man feels pressure behind the eyes. 10 moves ahead is not a slogan to him. It is a habit of seeing what the reduced position is already trying to become. Across from him, the opponent reaches for a rook, then stops. That pause is longer than the last one. He has felt the shift too. The board is quieter now, yes, but it is not peaceful. It is waiting. And when the other man finally places his hand back on the rook, he does not move it. And that still hand over the rook says more than a move ever could. Beloved one, there comes a point when the board stops asking for calculation and starts asking for character. Calculation is still there, sharp as ever, but now every line runs through the player himself, through his patience, through his honesty, through whether he can accept what the position is instead of clinging to what he wanted it to be. That is why a master becomes so hard to shake in a reduced position. He is not fighting the moment, he is aligned with it. His opponent is not there yet. You can feel it in the pause. The clock keeps making that dry, steady sound. The overhead light catches the edge of the rook. A sleeve creases at the wrist as the hand rests there, undecided. He wants that piece to solve something for him. He wants movement to feel like freedom. But the board is too honest now. The rook cannot go where he wishes without leaving another weakness behind, and both of them know it. This is the hidden cost of earlier choices. A crowded middle game lets people postpone truth. An endgame does not. The master understands that because he has lived through too many clean positions to lie to himself about them. He has studied enough stripped-down boards, enough quiet endings, enough simple-looking structures that turned merciless 2 moves later to know when less becomes more. Less noise, more responsibility. Less clutter, more consequence. This is why those who depend on confusion start to fade when the game gets simple. He doesn't need to press with drama. He only needs to place the next question in exactly the right square. So he waits, and the waiting itself becomes pressure. His opponent finally takes his hand off the rook, not because he found peace, but because he found fear somewhere else. His fingers move to a pawn instead, testing a thinner idea, a smaller repair. The kind of move people make when they no longer believe they can improve their position and are trying, quietly, not to make it worse. That is enough. The master sees the path now with painful clarity. Not a flashy finish, something colder. A sequence where one pawn step will force a file, one file will force a trade, and one trade will leave a single square undefended at the exact wrong time. He does not smile. He has too much respect for the board for that. But inside, he knows the position has crossed a line. The game is no longer asking who prepared better. It is asking who can tell the truth first. And then the opponent makes the pawn move, the only move that looked safe, and the one move the master had already been waiting for. And the instant that pawn lands, the board gives up its secret. Beloved one, this is the moment reactive people never recognize until it is already behind them. They think the danger begins when a piece is taken, when a check appears, when the room finally gasps. No, the real turning point comes earlier, when one move, made for safety, quietly seals every road except the one you were trying not to see. That is what has happened here. The other man did not blunder in some loud, shameful way. He simply chose the move that told the truth about his position. The master feels it all at once. Clarity. A file is about to open. A trade is about to become forced. A defender that looked loyal is actually pinned to a duty it cannot keep forever. This is why the deepest players unsettle people so badly. They do not need the collapse to be visible before they understand it. They recognize the shape of the ending while everyone else is still calling it playable. And that kind of sight changes how you move. He does not snap into action. He does not rush to collect proof. He places his fingers on the right piece with the calm of someone who has already accepted what the board is now willing to give. The wood is smooth under his touch. The clock taps on. Somewhere at the edge of the room, somebody shifts a shoe against the floor and then freezes again. Even the watchers can feel it now, though they may not know why. The air has that thin, exact feeling certain positions get when there is no more room for pretending. Across from him, the opponent knows it too. That is why his face changes. Not dramatically, not enough for the untrained eye, but enough. The jaw softens. The stare hardens. He is no longer trying to look prepared. He is trying to stay present. And there is something almost noble in that, because this is the place where the game stops being about image and starts being about nerve. Can you remain honest when the board has already judged the shape you built? The master can. So he makes the move now, quietly, cleanly, no flourish. The file opens exactly as he saw it. One exchange follows, then another possibility disappears. The king side, which had been holding itself together on faith and habit, suddenly feels bare. Not lost yet, but bare. And then the opponent looks down at the remaining position for a long, still second. Because the next move is no longer about saving the game. It is about deciding what he is willing to give up to keep from admitting it is already gone. And after that pawn move, the answer comes without hurry. Beloved one, this is how the board rewards the one who stayed honest with it. He does not spring forward like a man chasing applause. He makes the forcing move, then the next one, each piece landing with the soft, certain sound of something returning to its rightful place. A rook enters. A trade cannot be avoided. The king is pushed into a lane that looked harmless only a few minutes ago. Now every square around it feels thin. The man across from him sees it before anyone else does. That is the final loneliness of chess. Seeing the loss in private, one breath before the room catches up. His eyes move over the remaining pieces, then back to the file, then to that one square he can no longer defend without giving up something worse. He does not collapse. He does not dramatize it. He studies the position one last time, and in that silence, there is a strange dignity. Because now, the game is stripped of all vanity. No opening memory can help him. No clever posture can help him. Only truth remains. The master waits. He gives the other man that respect. Then the hand across the table lifts, not toward a piece now, but toward the clock. It stops halfway, changes course, and gently tips the king onto its side. Just like that, no speech, no excuse, only the faint click of wood against wood, and the whole room exhales at once. That is the image they carry home with them, the fallen king beside all those still standing pieces. Just one small figure lying still because the shape around it had been decided long before the final touch. And the one who understood that first is the one who walked out with the game. The chess grandmaster rises, gathers his pieces of paper, and leaves the board as quietly as he entered it. The title was never in the handshake, never in the watchers, never in the room. It lived in the way he held the position while it was still unclear, and in the way he never begged confusion to save him. The lamp hums softly over the empty squares. A cup of cold coffee is still sitting near the corner of the table, untouched now. The pieces are reset one by one, and the board looks innocent again. If this stayed with you, subscribe and stay close for the next one. And if you know that sound, the quiet moment when a whole position finally tells the truth, leave a comment.